you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Belgium is convening its National Security Council after a wave of mysterious drone incursions grounded flights at Brussels airport and even breached military airspace, raising alarm across NATO. But just how vulnerable Europe's skies really are. Now, with suspicions pointing toward Russia and debate intensifying over Europe's readiness for hybrid warfare, we're joined now by Eoin Micheál McNamara from the Finnish Institute of International Affairs to discuss all the latest. Good to have you on TVP World again. I want to get your expertise right away with how you think that Belgium handled this. I mean, they're talking of having the Security Council meet, rather their National Security Council meet. There's plans in the offing about trying to have another type of airspace security center by January. Is this enough? Is it too little, too late? Is it expected? What's your first reaction to all this?
Well, I think it can be expected, these type of moves, trying to find out what the facts were, trying to find out what the nature of these drone operations were. It looks like that there were different purposes to different operations from what we can see from information that's available at the moment. And of course, initiatives for the next steps to ensure that the danger from this type of activity is reduced.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the danger is reduced. I mean, unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of these incursions around Europe. If it's Denmark, also airports shut down in Germany. But it seems, though, the measures to counter it, do you think that's moving fast enough? Are we still behind here? Because it seems these things are only increasing, and a lot of citizens and also business, I mean, this is a huge cost. Are governments moving fast enough to counter all this?
Well, drone technology moves at a very, very fast rate. So you come up with a system, a technology to counter this, and then drone technology moves on even further and circumnavigates that system. And then what could be quite an expensive system is suddenly obsolete. So the technology here moves on with at a very, very fast pace. And of course, there's different drone systems for different purposes. A small drone can be used for many, many things. I think what we've seen in Belgium here, or the fear is that, of course, Belgium hosts U.S. nuclear weapons under NATO's nuclear sharing program. And one of these operations might have been an effort to surveil military activity in relation to that, or at least threaten that there was relatively cheap capacity available to cause destabilization in this area and to provoke fear. So it's a very complicated and entangled issue.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you said the technology, Eoin, moves quite quickly. I grant you that. But at the same time, I mean, the reality of Russia as a threat, if indeed it is behind all this, that has not been news. I mean, this is already some time. So I'm just curious, has NATO, have European governments sort of neglected this sort of element in the security gap? Is there a security gap that these governments have failed to address? I mean, technology is one thing, but having this sort of hybrid threats, that's not new, is it?
Yeah, I do think we need to be more flexible, but there's a lot of debate and discussion and opinion going on around this. I mean, there is a shadow war going on here. I mean, a lot of this activity can be linked back to Russia, back to Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU. That's the one that is believed to be coordinating all this among Russia's various intelligence agencies. And they pick up troublemakers, they pick up hooligans, they pick up professional criminals all over Europe. And, I heard it said on the BBC yesterday as a kind of a gig economy, a one or two job contracted out kind of work to these kind of troublemakers. I suppose maybe troublemakers isn't maybe the most accurate way of describing them, because of course these people are very, very skilled and are willing to work to kind of destabilize European infrastructure for relatively cheap costs. And of course, Russia gets plausible deniability from this. So, I mean, that's very, very hard to react to. It's very, very fluid and mercurial. And our institutions are old, they've been there for a long time. We do need to be creative and flexible in how we respond to that. But of course, some people, I spoke to a very senior military expert in the Baltic states a few days ago, and he was still calm about this, said that, we can manage this hybrid threats. It's a nuisance, but we can manage these. We shouldn't get distracted from the bigger conventional threat. Should Russia be allowed replenish its forces out of Ukraine? So there's a lot of conflict logic going around here, and it does take us perhaps in Europe too much time to figure out what is exactly going on.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Baltics there. Also, if we're just going to the NATO's eastern flank, also Poland has been very much adamant, pointing the finger at Russia. There have also been drone incursions here, unfortunately far worse. Now, to address all this as a unified policy, often we talk about this drone wall. I just want to share a clip now with you and our audience of what Radosław Sikorski, the foreign minister of Poland, had to say about this and his opinion, I think what is worth looking at. So let's roll that now.
Russia, using all kinds of ships, clunker feet, whatever, can reach, unfortunately, deep into Europe. And we should be prepared to counter that. And so I think not to build anti-drone and drone capacity these days would be irresponsible.
Right, so there we have the words of Sikorski. So if we're looking at some kind of drone wall, this is already floated around by some of those Baltic states. Realistically, what's required here? How quickly can this be put into practice? These are different components. Tell us what that would look like maybe, and how long that would take to really be effective.
Well, drones are transforming the character of war. And we've seen this with conventional war in Ukraine as well, how drones support combat operations and how they essentially define the structure of war. We've seen that with some of the trench warfare in Ukraine. But also drones, as we're discussing now, are transforming the nature of hybrid warfare and hybrid interference and hybrid strategies and destabilization and political warfare, whatever moniker you want to put in it. So these drone walls, these drone systems, what's involved is technology that responds to the threat, not just now, but how the threat is going to build into the future. So this technology needs to be very creative and very adaptive. And policymakers need to be very astute and very aware about how this technology is changing and how it is likely to change, what the risks are, in order to bring that technology forward so the technology stays ahead of the curve. So a lot of this, a lot of this is new to us. Maybe we have, as I mentioned, drone technology moves very quick, but maybe our institutions, our governments are still a little bit in denial as to how quick they need to move to counter these types of threats, because these are the threats of the future, and they're only going to get more scary if we don't design strong systems to respond to the threat.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious to get your view, because there's an initiative called the European Sky Shield Initiative. It has about 24 countries by now. That was floated around already in 2022, actually by Germany under former Chancellor Mr. Scholz. Then we hear the drone wall, we hear all these other components. So which one really is the perfect fit here? Is it partially because it gets stuck in bureaucracy? This is something that nation states can't really do by themselves. So, hey, what do you think about the ESSI? Is that still more relevant now? Is there something else? Is that going to sort of form as a framework for something else? Which is the best way forward here?
Yeah, I think you kind of got it there. There's different frameworks about, and of course, when these ideas are proposed, that was already 3 years ago. The technology has moved on, so we should not be afraid to change our plans or to adapt our plans. I'd say that is more accurate way of putting it. But there's different threats. The nature of the threat, a small drone that disrupts air traffic control at a major airport in Europe, that is a different threat and should be managed and handled in a different way from a drone drone swarms, say, somewhere like on a frontline state in the Baltic states or Poland, that's paving the way to weaken forces in the Baltic states and in Poland, so that Russia can weaken and break these countries before it plans a more conventional attack. So there are different threats here, and different threats need different frameworks, as you mentioned, to manage them. Some are more civilian in scope, more hybrid in scope, and some are almost completely military. So there's many different types of drones, and there's many ways, drone systems, civilian and militarily, that these drones can be utilized. This is what makes this threat so complex.
Yeah. Also, speaking of complexity, I mean, looking at some of these countries, the Baltic states, which you mentioned as well, Latvia, trying to push also AI technology for detection. There's certain types of jamming technology as well. I mean, as you said, there's so many different types of things at play. Tell us a little bit, maybe, if you can, is there a particular country or maybe a group of countries where you see that are really making progress here ahead of the curve? I mean, there's Ukraine, of course, in the mix that has this kind of experience. Do you think Ukraine will be utilized more as a sort of, let's say, an example? Is there going to be closer cooperation, you think? Or which country in Europe you think is ahead of the curve, if we can call it that?
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't forget about this, that we often need, I say European Union and NATO, we need Ukraine at times more than Ukraine needs us. I mean, Ukraine is battle hardened and right up to speed on the modes of modern warfare. So, and often ahead of the curve on how to counter a lot of Russian drone activity. So jamming is very, very important, and how to utilize electronic warfare. Electronic warfare is vital in this regard, and I think Ukraine, is in our camp inside the Western fold, and it has a lot to teach us, and there's a lot of lessons there. And so we need a very strong and a very comprehensive debrief from Ukraine across the EU and NATO, across all these different modes of warfare. Just a last point on that as well. Outside the Western Bloc, not really a Western partner. I believe China has invested a lot in jamming and a lot in electronic warfare. Very astute to how they think Western actors or enemies of China might fight in the future as well. So, I mean, the question is globally, if we don't respond to this in Europe, it will just fall further behind in the strategic stakes. Our rivals see how this is going, and we need to adapt.
So we need to respond faster, as technology is racing ahead, but so does the European and allied response. Look, it's a really fascinating area. Thanks so much for all those insights there. That was Eoin Micheál McNamara this morning. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but there's much more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away. Goodbye.